For centuries, humans believed the sky represented order. The sun rises and sets on schedule. The moon follows a predictable cycle. The stars move along paths we can calculate with confidence. Everything above us felt understood, measured, under control. And then, at completely random moments, the sky makes a sound. Not thunder, not aircraft, not an earthquake, but something else. A horn. A deep, drawn-out sound, echoing through the air like metal grinding against metal. Sometimes it resembles an ancient brass trumpet. Other times, it sounds like a massive gate slowly opening somewhere above the clouds. People have given it many names: sky trumpets, heavenly sounds, or, in the most unsettling terms, trumpets from heaven. What makes this phenomenon disturbing isn't just the sound itself, it's the fact that no one knows where it comes from. The earliest records of these sounds don't come from modern technology or social media. Medieval manuscripts from Europe describe trumpets sounding from the sky on clear days. Some religious texts interpreted them as omens, others as signs of judgment. As science advanced, those stories were dismissed, filed away as superstition, ancient fear, until the sounds came back. Since the early 2000s, sky trumpets have been reported around the world: Canada, the United States, Germany, Ukraine, Japan, Chile. Shaky phone videos show people standing still, confused, staring up at gray skies as the sound rolls overhead, as if it's coming from the air itself. There's no visible source, no clear beginning, no obvious explanation. The sounds aren't identical, but they share something in common: low frequency, long resonance, and a weight to them that's hard to describe. And almost always they happen when there's no storm. At first, scientists suggested atmospheric thunder or dry lightning high in the sky. But thunder is sharp. It cracks, then disappears. Sky trumpets don't behave that way. They linger. They hum. They feel more like a signal than a strike. Others pointed to industrial noise trains, factories, underground construction. But many recordings come from remote areas, far from heavy infrastructure. Some were captured in quiet rural regions, where nothing large enough exists to produce sounds like that. Then came a detail that made things uncomfortable. Audio analysis showed that many sky trumpets fall into the range of infrasound frequencies below what humans normally hear. When strong enough, infrasound can trigger anxiety, nausea, even panic. Animals are especially sensitive to it. In many recordings, dogs bark violently. Birds scatter. Livestock become agitated sometimes before the sound is fully audible, as if something is disturbing the environment at a level we barely notice. One serious scientific theory suggests the sounds may come from interactions between electromagnetic waves and Earth's ionosphere. During periods of intense solar activity, plasma waves can form, and under rare conditions, those vibrations may convert into audible sound. But there's a problem. Sky trumpets don't always line up with solar storms. Geological explanations have also been proposed. Deep movements inside the Earth create vibrations, and under unusual atmospheric conditions, those vibrations might bend upward, making it seem like the sound comes from the sky. It sounds reasonable until you hear recordings that last several minutes, shift in pitch, and follow a rhythm. Rock doesn't have rhythm. Stone doesn't resonate like that. And this is where another theory quietly enters the conversation. Not officially, not in peer-reviewed journals. But it doesn't go away. What if sky trumpets aren't isolated events? What if they're symptoms of a much larger system under stress? Modern global conflict doesn't start with a declaration of war. It doesn't begin with a single shot. It builds slowly through geopolitical tension, weapons testing, energy systems, and constant electromagnetic activity at a scale humanity has never seen before. None of that exists in isolation. It affects the planet. Some researchers have asked a disturbing question. What if sky trumpets are the sound of Earth reacting? like metal groaning before it breaks, like a living system responding to relentless pressure. Throughout history, trumpets have symbolized endings. Not the end of a battle, but the end of an era. A warning before collapse. Today, we don't call it a sign. We call it an unexplained phenomenon. But the feeling it leaves behind is ancient. If a third world war is forming quietly, gradually, it likely won't begin with a broadcasted explosion. It will begin with signs most people ignore. Strange sounds, events that don't fit, warnings no one is sure are real until it's too late. Maybe one day, sky trumpets will be fully explained in a textbook. Maybe they're just a rare natural phenomenon misunderstood by a species still learning how to listen. But maybe they're not, and that's why we can't look away. Because when the sky makes noise, it breaks one of our most basic assumptions that we understand the world we live in. And the next time the sky sounds its horn, the question won't be, what is it? The question will be, do we really want to know what it's warning us about? But there is another theory, one that's rarely discussed out loud. Not because it has no basis, but because it makes people uncomfortable. What if sky trumpets are not purely natural? What if those sounds are the side effect of something happening quietly, deeper, larger, and on a global scale? Throughout modern history, whenever humanity has moved closer to the edge of total war, the world has grown louder in very different ways. Not just explosions or gunfire, but background signals, weapons testing, electromagnetic waves, artificial seismic activity, and large-scale technological operations unlike anything before. World wars don't begin with the first blast. They begin with preparation, and preparation leaves traces. Some independent researchers have noticed a troubling pattern. Several sky trumpet events appear to coincide with periods of heightened geopolitical tension. Not always, but often enough to raise questions. Modern military systems rely on technologies the public rarely hears about: extremely low-frequency waves to communicate with nuclear submarines, seismic testing to detect underground facilities, ultra-low-frequency radar capable of interacting with the atmosphere and the ocean. These technologies operate at the boundary between physics, the atmosphere, and the Earth itself. And when a system is pushed close to its limits, it responds. This theory does not claim sky trumpets are weapons. It does not suggest an attack. It proposes something colder, that they are side effects, like the screech of metal when a massive machine starts to move. If a future global conflict isn't fought with tanks and infantry, but with information, energy, waves, and pressure, then Earth itself would be the first thing to feel the change, not humans. The planet. Some physicists believe the Earth's ionosphere is far more sensitive than we assume. Small changes in magnetic fields, radiation levels, or high-powered radio waves can trigger unusual resonance effects. In this scenario, sky trumpets are not intentional signals, but echoes the sound of an overstimulated system, like a bell struck the wrong way. And then comes a more unsettling thought. What if a new world war isn't only between nations, but between humanity and the systems it is overwhelming? When sky trumpets are considered alongside the hum from the oceans and the bloop rising from the depths of the Pacific, a heavy question begins to form. What if Earth is not just the stage for our conflicts? What if it's reacting? In biology, when a body is placed under constant stress, it sends warning signals before failure. Heart rhythms change. Breathing becomes irregular. Strange internal sounds emerge. If Earth is a complex living system not in a mystical sense, but a physical one, then sky trumpets may represent a kind of stress response, not aimed at anyone, but affecting everyone. Some take the idea even further. They suggest that if a non-human intelligence exists on Earth, biological, technological, or something entirely unknown, then a global human conflict would not go unnoticed. In that scenario, sky trumpets wouldn't be a consequence. They would be a warning, not sent to us, but sent to the planet itself. Of course, there is no evidence strong enough to confirm any of this. Science demands data, not feelings. But the reason this theory persists isn't certainty. It's how disturbingly well it fits. It fits the timing. It fits the scale. It fits the official silence surrounding the phenomenon. Maybe sky trumpets are just the atmosphere behaving strangely. Maybe geology. Maybe interference. But maybe, in a world edging closer than ever to total conflict, the sounds from the sky are not random. Maybe they're the echo of something we don't yet understand before it's too late. And if World War III doesn't begin with an explosion, what if it begins with a sound? A horn echoing across an empty sky. No announcement, no explanation, just loud enough to make humanity look up and ask, have we gone too far?